Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be doing a comparison of 5 different inking techniques. I'm going to take the same drawing and ink it 5 different ways. Now the drawing is going to be of a dragon head. I sort of chose randomly. This is not a video about how to draw a dragon. I've got 3 different videos on how to draw a dragon, and I will link to them in the description. But what I've done is I've taken this pencil sketch that I made, and I scanned it into my computer, and then I printed it out 5 times quite lightly so that I can ink on top of these and do the comparison. So let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, now for the first one I'm going to be using a Micron, a Pigma Micron, my pen of choice, but I have actually chosen a much finer point than what I normally use. The 005 might be the finest tip that they make, and I'm going to begin inking this. Most of this video is all going to be in time-lapse. I'm going to begin each one just a little bit with real-time drawing to sort of explain the comparison that I'm making here. What I'm going to do with this first one is do very even line width. I am not going to attempt to make any of the lines thicker than any of the other ones. And I just basically, by way of this video, want to compare different approaches. I do not want to say that one is better than the other, and I also do not want to say that these 5 different techniques are somehow the only techniques or symbolic of 5 major techniques. No, I sort of chose them randomly to show different things, and so yeah, please don't think that this is an authoritative video on inking, and certainly it won't be really showing you how to ink, but just giving you maybe an overview, a comparison. One other thing that I'm doing, you may note, is that I'm making these lines quite slowly, and that is on purpose. I want to compare what does it look like when you draw the lines very slowly, very carefully, to when in subsequent approaches I'm going to try to move the pen more quickly, get more of a lively line. Again, not making judgment calls here, saying, oh, this is better, this is worse, but just showing different approaches, all of which are valid. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it into time-lapse. I'm going to finish off this first version of the drawing. Alright, well I'm basically done, but I wanted to say one last thing about the approach I used here. I would call this a kind of closed line approach in which most of the lines completely connect with all the other lines, a little bit like a coloring book maybe. Certainly a very delicate look to this drawing because of all the details, because of all the lines being uniform in width. You get a very distinctive look in terms of how all these lines work together. Now what I'm going to do is take this 005, set it aside, and switch now to the 08. And this is really the last of the ones that will be involving this same product here, the Pigma Micron. There are comparable pens. I certainly don't want people to think, oh, I got to go out and get that particular pen, but this time I am going to try to vary the line width a little more, and I'm also going to try to move the pen more quickly across the page so that we see what happens. We see how that affects the quality of line that you get. Now, I wanted to say something here about how in Western inking tradition, I would say there certainly has been a tendency to present variation in line width as a desirable thing, something that should always be pursued. I know that I was sort of schooled that way, that you should always try to have variation in line width. I feel that that's a little too dogmatic, frankly, and that there's not, you should always. You know, when I talk about art, I basically almost never use the phrase, you should always. I think there are different techniques, and I don't mean to present any of these, as I said, as superior to the other. In fact, I would encourage you to, try all the different techniques, try mixes and matching of different techniques. Find out what works for you. But, certainly if you look at American comic books, you are going to see quite a lot of variation in line width. And I have noticed in a fair number of manga styles that it's a little more like this. The drawing doesn't look like this, but in terms of the line width, many manga styles involve quite a lot of uniformity in the line width. Not all. Everyone finds that, there's lots of different types of manga illustration, but have a look and see if you don't agree that some of them do sort of celebrate a uniformity of line width and they don't regard that as a bad thing. Well, I think it is time now for me to get back to the time-lapse. Bring in Old Man Inking time-lapse. Let me give you a hand there. This video is going to go on forever. And I'm going to finish up this one, maybe have a few more words before we go on to part 3. So it's interesting to compare the different effects here. You can see how I didn't try to outline every single scale here, just kind of letting it breathe a little bit, trying to make the lines move more quickly. You can see you get just a different feeling when the pen is sort of dancing across the page and you're allowing things to get just a little bit sketchy here and there. But I think it's time to move on to the next one, and this one's going to be quite interesting because I am going to be applying ink, good old-fashioned ink, with a brush. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now, full disclosure, I am not a master at inking with a brush. Far from it. I really have fairly limited experience with it, but I wanted to include it in this video and sort of talk a little bit about how inking with a brush almost requires you to start making different lines. When you have a pen, and it has that very firm tip to it, and you're able to press against the page, you're able to kind of lean into that drawing instrument in a way that you can't with a brush. The brush is so flexible, it almost forces you to start loosening up a little. And if you get really good at it, like I said, I'm not really good at it, you can really benefit from these variations in line width. You can see what happened there. That would have been very hard for me to do with the Micron Pigma. I guess if they make these sort of brush tip type ones, it becomes possible with that. But of course, it's imitating a real brush. So. I wouldn't say that one is necessarily better than the other. I don't know the facts on that. I'm sure the traditionalists would say, oh, you can't replace a real brush and ink with one of those, I don't know what it's made out of, the imitation brush tip of some of these things. One guy who really is a master at brush and ink is Bill Watterson, who did Calvin and Hobbes. I would encourage you to check out his work. He just did such beautiful stuff, and he took full advantage of that, like I was saying, the flexibility of the brush tip. Well, I think it is time to go ahead and finish this up in time-lapse, and I'll be back to talk about it a little more. So you can see quite a bold difference between the two, and part of that is deliberately I decided to really go in black with the ink, and that's common for this style. In fact, a lot of old American comics, or even newer American comics, are done with ink and brush, and you will tend to see use of these big high contrast black areas. Very effective, and in an interesting way, I find that this starts to look like a blend between this style, and it's natural enough because the 08 sort of can emulate to a degree some of the brush strokes while also getting very fine and clean. Well, actually, the masters of the brush can also get very fine and clean. I can't. I don't have the control that those people do. Well, for the next one, we're going to pull out the big bucks and go for the super expensive ballpoint pen. Oh, I thought it would be fun to try doing just a simple blue ballpoint pen here, the kind of pen that we have all used so many times before. And let's go ahead and just get into it. I'm going to do a little bit of this real time. And, you know, with each one of these, rather than try to do the exact same thing just with a different tool, I am almost deliberately choosing a different kind of drawing style. As I said, this very slow and painstaking, getting more lively with these other ones. This time I'm going to go for a really much more sketchy quality, which is to say going over the same area with multiple lines, which I have not done in these previous ones. You know, I think it kind of comes naturally. I don't know about for you, but when I'm doing a little doodle with the ballpoint pen, I tend to start getting a little bit sketchy doodly. I turn into a sketchy doodly. It seems to come naturally to this type of inking tool. I became curious about what the history was of the ballpoint pen, and I Googled it and found out that 1888 or something was when they first patented the ballpoint pen, but I don't think they came into common use until around World War II, so it really is more of a modern tool and has a more modern look to it. Certainly compared to these other techniques, you know, this is of course a modern pen, but it's emulating pen and ink, is something, an approach that's been around for years. This ballpoint pen really is sort of a new 20th century type of drawing tool, and it's sort of, I find, I don't know if the rest of you would agree with this, I find that there's a sort of softness to the feel of the pen on the page, and I feel less worried that I'm going to, you know, either make a super dark mark or make nothing. I feel like when you let up with a ballpoint pen, you can get quite a light line, and there's a very kind of carefree feeling to working with a ballpoint pen. Maybe it's psychological. You just feel like the pressure is off. You can just have fun. And I would not be at all surprised, in fact, if a lot of people say, "Oh, my favorite out of all these drawings is the ballpoint pen version. I think that's the best." One of the things about YouTube and doing videos like this is I think people are very tempted to declare one of them the winner. This is the best one. All those other techniques must be banished for all time. That is certainly not what I'm intending to do here. I think all of these are interesting techniques, and, you know, if you want to choose one and declare it the winner, have at it. But please know that that's not what I'm trying to do with this video. It really is maybe celebrating all of them for what they do. Each one produces a different look. I enjoy working in all of them. I'd say the one that's most challenging for me is this brush and ink technique, which I really have not done so much of over the years, but I kind of like the look at it. Maybe I'll try doing more in the future. And quickly, even though I know I've droned on quite a bit here, I wanted to point out that I have not included the dip pen where you dip into the ink, and embarrassingly, I don't have one in my toolkit at the moment. I haven't used them for quite a long time, but I am going to go purchase one of those and do a separate video that talks about the, you know, the traditional, in a way, really the default tool for pen and ink is that dip pen, and I have done some over the years, not certainly very many though, and I have had requests here on YouTube to do a dip pen tutorial, and so watch this space, folks, coming soon. But let's go ahead and bring out the old time-lapse on this one, and we're going to bring ourselves towards the end of the video where I do the one last one. I'll leave it as a surprise before I reveal the technique that I use on that one. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so there we have my ballpoint pen version. People are always asking, what pen is that? So I can say, this is a Bic. B-I-C. Should be available almost anywhere. I hope it's available all over the world. I'm not sure if it necessarily is, but there are comparable products. Let's face it, anywhere you go. I really enjoyed it, actually, working with the ballpoint pen, and perhaps I will do another ballpoint pen video. But now it is time to switch over to the last of the dragon heads here, and this one I am going to do by way of stippling. I'm going back to my 005 here. Stippling, for those of you who've never tried it before, is one of those illustrations where it's composed entirely of dots. No lines at all. And basically, I almost never use this technique. It's so laborious and time-consuming, but I thought today, for variety's sake, let's do it. Let's go for the stippling. Now, stippling was pretty much made for time-lapse because it is so slow-moving, and you're basically seeing me, for now, just going over the lines with individual dots. It's kind of crazy, and it's like watching paint dry, let's be honest, folks. So I'm not, I'm going to put you out of your misery in terms of watching me do this stippling technique, and it will be Old Man Time-Lapse to the rescue as I complete this. But I will be back to talk a little bit about the method of using stippling and my impressions of using it kind of for the first time. It's been ages since I did a fully stippled illustration. So let's go ahead, kick it into time-lapse, and I'll be back with a few final words. All right, well, I feel like I'm kind of coming down to the end of this. You know, with stippling, it's kind of hard to know. When are you done? You know, each individual dot adds so little. You could kind of just keep at it for hours and hours and hours. Unless, of course, you're making a YouTube video, in which case you should probably wind it down. I did want to point out, though, notice that with these other illustrations, I was constantly turning the page. People might know why I was doing that. It's to get the pivot point of my wrist. It makes it easier to make curved, smooth lines. With stippling, you don't really need to make lines, and so I find that I'm not turning the page so much as I work on it. But I got to tell you, boy, it is laborious. It requires an awful lot of patience, and the idea of illustrating an entire book with stipple technique, sounds kind of like a nightmare to me, although I will admit it is a very cool looking technique if you have the patience. The final result is pretty impressive looking as an illustration. Well, let's refocus so that we can compare all 5 of them. All right, well, there's the 5 different versions of what was originally the exact same pencil drawing. Really interesting to see what a difference different inking techniques can make. Let me know what you thought of this video. I'd love to do more, not just about inking, but applying various techniques to the exact same drawing. I had a lot of fun with it, and I think it is fairly educational in terms of what you learn comparing these different drawing methods. But let me go ahead and thank anyone who has supported me by getting any of my books, like Brody's Ghost, my graphic novel series, collected in a single volume now. We got the Realism Challenge, my book on hyperrealism, the Drawing Lesson, a graphic novel that teaches you how to draw, and Mastering Manga 3. Just got word that this will be translated into Spanish. I'll keep you updated as that book hits the stores. But let me go ahead and lay down this pen. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.